Hello once again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Lately I've been doing several series of videos on vices, bench vices, machinist vices. Recently I did one which was Tips 554 comparing a Wilton and a Colombian. In this video I am going to talk about a Prentiss vise and a Charlie Parker vise. The big orange one is a 6x10 Parker. The red mutilated 4.5 incher is a Prentiss. These are the two vices that I discussed in that aforementioned video. The Parker vise and the Prentiss vise haven't been made for many years, so they're obsolete. The only way you're going to find one, of course, is at an auction or a garage sale or eBay or something like that. But they are coveted by many men. I would also like to have a reed vise to compare. And really, I'm not criticizing one over the other. I'm just showing you some of the features of these great old vices. This is a Prentiss 4.5 inch Model 20 bench vise made in New York some years ago. I'm not sure of the exact year, but I do know that this type of screw with the fancy knobulated end is not made anymore. It's so much cheaper just to make a cylinder here rather than that beautiful curve. I've only owned this vise for about a month and it is strictly scrap iron. It is no good, but I bought it anyway. I knew it wasn't very good. I didn't pay a whole lot for it, but let me show you what's wrong with it and then we'll just take a look at how it's built. Now this is one that has a swivel jaw made so that you can hold tapered items, and that is all damaged and buggered up, broken out, and somebody has removed the alignment pin probably many years ago and drilled and tapped a couple holes in there with bolts so that you can no longer swing this. But I think I'll take those out right now and show you what it is capable of. The jaws are damaged. This one is just worn out and loose, and the jaw is missing over here. Probably has been for a long time, and since it's been used without the jaw, it's pretty badly damaged. Sometimes a fella might want to hold a tapered item. This is a Morse taper center, and this isn't proper to hold this in the vise anyway, but this is just an illustration. You can't really hold that in a regular vise because it's only going to grip on the largest part. So let me set that up if I can. I'm not even sure this will work, so that we can hold something tapered like a wedge or something like that. Well, and you can see now this will turn. So now, as you can see, this back jaw can be swiveled, but it's broken. And if it was working properly, you could hold something like this Morse taper center in there. A lot of times this type of vise did not have teeth on the jaws. At least one that I owned years ago did not. And these appear to be smooth or worn out. The vise is very cleverly made so that you can swing that, but since it's broken, as I said, normally there was a pin in here, and the one that I had before was a tapered pin that would hold it into alignment. But now, since this is broken out and badly damaged, you can see the jaw literally wants to fall out, and that is how it is made. There doesn't appear to be any damage to this, but if you look, if I can zero in here, this is broken and a piece broken out of here as well. And that's why someone had bolted it into place. Oh wait, there's a note in there. A note from Bubba. So rather than throw this vise out many years ago, someone cobbled it up and drilled and tapped those two holes there and bolted the jaw in place. Otherwise, really, it should have been thrown out. Most, but not all vices have a little bit of an anvil area here that you can pound on, but not too hard. But on this particular vise, you really can't pound any place here, so someone has taken the liberty, I wonder who, of pounding in this area. And I had told the kids at school never to pound back there, but at any rate, that is broken, it is split. Generally, when I buy a vise at an auction, they're too heavy to lift. This one's a little heavier than you think. So I take them apart. I simply take the movable jaw all the way out and carry it in 2 trips to the car. Well, I tried to get this apart and I could not, because since this is split, it ended up becoming larger there. In other words, the size here is too large, larger here than here, for the jaw to be disassembled. Now, if somebody wanted to restore this, the idea would be to probably drill a hole and put a bolt without a head to draw that together. So never beat on a vise. I think you can see here that that split or that crack is considerable. In fact, when I check it with a caliper right here, it is 20 or 30 thousandths larger right here than it is in another spot where it will not, where it is not damaged. And that's why I couldn't get it apart. Well, I did manage to get it out with some persuading and a lead hammer, and it's a 7/8 screw, very coarse square thread, not Acme, but square, and it looks to be in very good shape. That is the thread. I'm sure there's some wear. And again, looking here, you can see that that crack is considerable. And looking in here at the nut, the construction is rather similar to the Colombian, and notice the dovetail right here. They didn't allow any too much material on that nut, but I suppose it's plenty strong. I think you can hear Tommy mowing. I'm not a big fan of swivel bases, but this is a rather unique one. There's a pin here and it's spring-loaded. I think that that is probably not the original end on here, but by lifting this up, and it's quite a strong spring, one is able to move it into different positions. So we'll take it apart and see what that looks like. You can hear it snap into place, but there is some play, which would be objectionable in some cases. Let's take it apart. Big cast iron washer. And you can see in the swivel base all of the different holes. So there's a lot of different positions that you can set this in. And there is the spring-loaded pin. And that's the guide there. You can tell when something's pretty old. They're using a square screw or a square-headed bolt. Not a stock item, by the way. Now that it's reassembled, you can see that it has about 7-inch capacity here. Possibly only 6, because you're losing a lot of strength when you have the beam extended out this far. You need to go to a larger vise. Looking at it from the bottom side, you can see that the beam of the movable jaw is pretty well supported by this extension here, so it really looks well built. And I just noticed now, right here, cast into it. PV Company, which I take to mean Prentiss Vise Company. And even a little detail here, like this curve is rather pleasant to the eye, is it not? Along with this beautiful knobulated screw, and the handle is not bent. All right, that concludes what I was going to say about the Prentiss vise. Too bad that it's damaged so bad, but overall I think these were probably wonderful vises when they were in their heyday and before they became damaged. Vises I consider as consumable because I've seen so many of them badly damaged that really need to be thrown away. Often you see them that have been repaired with welds, and not too good of a job at that. Let's take a look at the Charlie Parker. This Charles Parker model 966 is a wonderful vise. It's really too big for what I do here, but I do like it. It is 6-inch wide jaws, and it will open a full 10 inches, which is rather amazing. Again, never beat back here, but there is a little bit of an anvil area right here. I bought this at an estate sale in 2012. An 80-year-old man got up on his ladder, step ladder, to repair his garage door opener, fell down, hit his head, and promptly died, just like the fool in the following picture. This vise weighs approximately 90 pounds, so much in fact that it wants to tip the whole bench over. And I was afraid when the grandkids were smaller that they might hang on this and bring the whole bench, so I've got a big old C-clamp there up against the studs, and that's really my stop. I was going to nail a 2x4 on there, but really probably ought to put a smaller vise on here for my everyday use because it is a bit clumsy. As big and heavy as this thing is, someone still managed to bend the handle, I suppose by putting a cheater bar on it, so this does not slide very freely. I have filed on it, but it didn't do the job. And you can see when it's wide open that there's 10 inches. Real good condition here. The jaws are a little bit worn, but still very usable. It came with a set of copper jaws, homemade of course, but fit just nicely. Not crazy about those, but I have a set of bronze cast jaws that will fit all right, but they're just a little bit shy of what I need. These are 5-inch jaws, and the vise is a 6-inch, but those do work. A rather massive beam. And I like very much the way the jaws are made. The screw is 1 1/4 diameter and 3 threads per inch, square thread of course, and I don't see any noticeable wear. I'm sure there is wear, but I see no damage or obvious wear. I like the way the screw is kept in place with this yoke, I'll call it a yoke type of keeper. A bit sloppy there. I'm not sure what is worn or if that's basically the way it was made. Parker. A lot of spacers. Nice construction. Why don't you paint this thing while you got it apart, you're thinking? You know, there was really art to the design years ago. Isn't that pretty? And here you can see the parting line from the patterns. I don't know if this is cast iron or cast steel. And now, looking at the nut from this view, it's held in with a dovetail and then a pin to keep it from coming out. Why the pin is bent, I do not know, but this seems to be typical design where the nut is held in alignment with a dovetail, and you can pretty clearly see that now, although there's a lot of grease in there, and I did remove most of it. Very well made. And the view from this side, you can see that there's a very large support for the movable jaw. Now you ought to take your vices apart once a year or every couple of years, clean them real well and lubricate them. Painting is optional. And yes, there is wear on the teeth, but lots of lifetime yet. I suppose this thing is 80 years old or more. That's a guess. And another look, another view of how the jaws are made and held in, the geometry of them. And they're held in with 2 pins. And here you can see the 2 pins. And I think you would drive them out from the bottom. They go all the way through, no blind holes. Charlie was no fool. Well, there they are, ladies and gentlemen. 2 Vises, a junk Prentiss and a darn near perfect yet Parker that might be good for another 100 or 200 years if no one beats on it. And especially with the intermittent use that it gets in my shop. Hope you enjoyed the Vises. Hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure and watch my 1,200 other shop videos. This is Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher, saying so long for now.